October 2nd, 2018. A 26-year-old postal worker called in sick to work. She was expecting her first
Every day to not seeing her for almost 3 years. Could nobody out here imagine.
The pregnant postal worker
child and had recently shared the exciting news with friends and family. Everyone
Very selfish that you could sit back and watch your family go through something like this and you know what happened to my daughter.
Coles was reportedly last
who knew her described her as responsible, dependable, and excited about becoming a mother.
But just hours later, her car was found parked outside her apartment. Her purse was
Just wish you would just come forward and say something.
still inside. Her cell phone had been left behind. Her packed lunch had never been touched. Even her prenatal vitamins were still sitting in the vehicle. It looked as though she had
And the big evidence to me is who she was last seen with. But they say that's not enough to bring them in.
stepped away for only a moment. She never came back. Nearly 8 years later, no one has been arrested, and no one knows exactly what happened to Kierra Coles or her unborn baby. Her disappearance remains one of Chicago's most haunting unsolved mysteries. Before becoming another face on a missing persons poster, Kierra Michelle Coles was known as someone people could depend on. She was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, where family members described her as caring, hardworking, and deeply devoted to the people she loved. Friends said she rarely caused trouble and always tried to help others whenever she could. Fang, she had recently begun working as a city carrier assistant for the United States Postal Service. The job demanded long hours, walking neighborhood routes in every kind of weather, and meeting strict delivery schedules. Despite the challenges, Kierra embraced the work because she wanted to build a stable future. Around the same time, she received life-changing news. She was pregnant with her first child, a baby boy. According to her family, she was thrilled about becoming a mother. She had started making plans for the future, attending prenatal appointments, and preparing for the arrival of her baby. Nothing about her behavior suggested she intended to disappear. She had dreams, responsibilities, and people who loved her. Everything pointed toward a promising future. Then came Tuesday, October 2nd, 2018. That morning, Kierra was scheduled to report for work, but instead she called in sick. To many people, that may not seem unusual. Everyone gets sick occasionally, but for those who knew Kierra, it immediately stood out because she was known for being dependable. Calling off work was something she rarely did. As the hours passed, family members became increasingly concerned. Calls to her phone went unanswered. Text messages received no replies. Friends couldn't reach her either. By the evening, concern had turned into panic. Relatives drove to her apartment in Chicago's Chatham neighborhood, hoping to find an explanation. Instead, they discovered something that made the situation even more alarming. Kierra's car was still parked outside her apartment building. Inside the vehicle were several personal belongings that immediately raised red flags. Her purse remained inside. Her cell phone had been left behind. Her packed lunch sat untouched. Her prenatal vitamins were still in the car. These were not items someone would normally abandon if they intended to leave voluntarily, especially a woman who was 3 months pregnant. Investigators found no obvious signs of a struggle inside the vehicle. There were no broken windows, no visible blood, and nothing immediately suggesting what had happened. It looked as though Kierra had simply stepped away from her car for a few minutes, but she never returned. The Chicago Police Department quickly launched a missing person investigation. Detectives interviewed family members, friends, neighbors, co-workers, and anyone who may have interacted with Kierra in the days leading up to her disappearance. Officers searched nearby streets, vacant lots, hospitals, shelters, and other locations where she might have gone. Every effort produced the same result. There was no sign of Kierra. Investigators then began collecting surveillance footage from businesses and homes throughout the neighborhood. They hoped security cameras would reveal where she had gone after leaving her apartment. One piece of footage soon became one of the most discussed clues in the investigation. A surveillance camera appeared to capture a woman believed to be Kierra walking along a sidewalk. Beside her was an unidentified man. The pair appeared to be walking calmly, and there was no obvious struggle visible in the video.
Detectives released images from the footage to the public, hoping someone would recognize the man or provide information about the encounter. However, authorities have never publicly identified him, nor have they accused him of any crime. Whether he had any involvement in Kierra's disappearance remains unknown. The footage answered one question by suggesting she was alive after leaving her apartment, but it created many more. Who was the man? How did he know Kierra? Where were they going? And what happened after the camera stopped recording?
As detectives continued their investigation, they learned more about Kierra's plans for the future. She had upcoming prenatal appointments. She had spoken excitedly with loved ones about becoming a mother. There was no evidence that she intended to disappear voluntarily. Her financial records showed no unusual activity after she vanished. There were no withdrawals suggesting she had taken money to start a new life. Her phone remained behind in her car, eliminating one of the most common ways investigators track missing persons.
Her social media accounts also fell silent. Everything simply stopped. For Kierra's family, accepting that reality was impossible. They refused to sit back and wait. Instead, they organized search parties throughout Chicago.
Volunteers distributed thousands of missing person flyers across neighborhoods, shopping centers, churches, and community events. Family members gave interviews to television stations, newspapers, and radio programs, hoping someone would recognize Kierra or remember seeing something unusual that day. Every tip brought hope. Every phone call carried the possibility that this nightmare might finally end. But one by one, each lead faded away. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Months became years.
Instead of celebrating the birth of Kierra's son, her family continued searching for both mother and child. As media coverage expanded, people across the country learned about Kierra's disappearance. Many were especially moved by one heartbreaking fact.
She had vanished while pregnant. Cases involving expectant mothers often receive widespread attention because investigators understand that time is critical, and because such disappearances are thankfully rare. Community organizations joined the effort to keep Kierra's name in the public eye. Volunteers organized awareness campaigns. Missing person organizations shared her story across the country. Posters bearing her smiling face appeared in businesses, on street corners, and online. Despite years of publicity, No confirmed sighting has led investigators to her. Nearly every piece of evidence in this case raises another unanswered question. Why did Kierra call in sick that morning? Who was the unidentified man seen walking beside her? Why was her phone left inside her car? Did she plan to meet someone that day? Did someone she trusted betray her? Or did she unexpectedly encounter danger after leaving home? Investigators have examined numerous possibilities over the years, but they have never publicly announced evidence that fully explains what happened. Without definitive answers, every theory remains just that, a theory. Authorities continue to emphasize that this remains an active investigation. Law enforcement agencies have repeatedly urged anyone with credible information to come forward, no matter how insignificant the detail may seem.
Cold cases are sometimes solved because someone finally decides to speak after years of silence, or because a small piece of information suddenly becomes meaningful when combined with other evidence. For Kierra's family, every passing birthday, every holiday, and every Mother's Day is another painful reminder that their loved one is still missing.
They continue to hope that someone, somewhere, knows the truth and will eventually come forward. Today, Kierra Coles remains missing. No arrests have been made, and no one has been charged in connection with her disappearance. The investigation remains open, and law enforcement continues to ask for the public's help. Kierra left behind more than unanswered questions. She left behind a family waiting for answers, friends who still remember her kindness, and an unborn son who never had the chance to enter the world. Somewhere, the truth about what happened on October 2nd, 2018, still exists. Whether it lies in a forgotten memory, an overlooked clue, or someone who has remained silent for years, investigators believe the answers are still out there.
Until that day comes, the disappearance of Kierra Coles remains one of Chicago's most heartbreaking unsolved mysteries. Her family has never stopped searching, and they continue to ask the public to remember her name, because in many cold cases, justice begins when one person decides to tell the truth.